this is the agenda that we've got. I just want to, we're running pretty close to on time, a few minutes over. Rochester budget update is going to, I'm sure, get intertwined with everything else that we have coming up, because it's been the source of much of the problems that we've had. I sent out a link to if I can find the right window now. Let's see.
Okay.
Okay, got something now.
Good. Okay, this is showing. Did any of you get a chance to read through this? I sent it out this afternoon, I think it was.
I didn't have time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's got a lot of damning information in terms of things that the district didn't let bubble up to the surface, I don't think. Certainly the superintendents that came after Barbara Dean probably never saw a lot of this, and I'm not sure how much she was aware of some of the issues coming along, but we ended up with a 27.4 million overrun that plunged us into a problem, and they go through kind of point by point things that contributed to that. There's the see, the health and dental benefits, which were underestimated for cost. The cost of substitutes was a big issue, and we'd heard that before, but it came to a 7.8 million shortfall. They apparently, even though they should have had all the information to figure out what the charter schools were going to cost the district, they ended up still having a problem with how much they ended up budgeting for charter schools, and it ended up more than they budgeted for.
Do you know why they did all these mistakes? Was it incompetency, or was there something illegal going on here?
Well, I don't know if you call it illegal or incompetent. Certainly you would think that the people in the budgeting office would have known, you know, somebody somewhere for some reason under budgeted, and maybe it avoided controversies before the board, or I don't know why they were inclined to do that.
Yeah, and it wasn't just 1 year, correct?
No, well, certainly it was the one from the 2018-2019 school year that got them into a mess, because previous ones, I think they covered it up by dipping into the reserve until there wasn't a reserve. And so charter school tuitions, of course, we've been saying for ages that the charter schools are draining a lot from the public school coffers, but you know, still, there were costs there that they didn't have to.
But it's still all for children's education. It's all the same thing.
Sure, yeah.
Hey, John, what is the total deficit at this point?
Oh God, where are we? Let's see. Well, somewhere in here,
24.7.
24.7.
Yeah, I thought it was 34.
37.4.
But there's for the coming year, there's a lot more money that we're going to be short when we go look at the budget for next year. The scrutiny of former CFO down there where we see this draft. This is the health and dental budgeting, and they were kind of starting to get off what they needed back in 2017, 2018. They definitely were budgeting less than the actual was going to be, and then 2019 we're way the heck off.
Oh, boy.
Now Everton signed last fall. I'm not sure how much he was telling Barbara Dean Williams what she wanted to hear, and how much was, either incompetency or just not. You kind of wonder why anybody would intentionally do this sort of thing. It's not like they're going to.
It's bizarre. I also heard that the feds, the Security Exchange, are investigating on fraud and misuse of taxpayers' money.
Mm-hmm.
The city is.
Certainly there's, one of the things that we're going to hopefully get, and I don't see anybody else coming on, Dan Drmacich was supposed to be joining us about the time that he was going to talk about his topic, which was the when we start talking about the Rochester Coalition for Public Education. So he would be coming on just about any time now if he joins us. I haven't heard the final numbers about what they're doing with 44 and whether they're going to have a pre-K there or not. There was some talk that wasn't going to. They had to include first grade, at least up through first grade, so kindergarten, first grade, in order to pass the requirements for what that building was approved for.
Oh boy.
It wasn't going to be as easy as what the superintendent wanted on that. So there's some question there. Now, School 43, all I've heard in the past day or two is that they're closing that partly to try to get the budget closer and not overrunning as much. And see, Deborah is still with us.
Yes, I am. I'm here.
What's your latest? You're going to become a middle school, right?
That's the plan.
Yeah.
So
Never a dull moment, huh?
never a dull moment, right? So I have been in contact mainly with my chief and HCI to see what do they want this to look like. What's the rollout going to look like, as well as wanting to ensure that my teachers, my pre-K through 6th grade teachers who have to leave, that they have equal access to the positions that are available for them and not get the bottom of the bucket. So they have the transfer process was reopened for them so that they could put in for transfer requests. Currently, I am planning with my SEP planning team that we have put together, which includes teachers, administrators, community partners, parents. We're looking to get a couple of students on there as well so that we can begin to see how do we want to brand our school? What do we want it to be like, sound like? And when people hear, we are even in the process of maybe changing the name. So when people hear our school name, they'll know to always think what. We will stay, continue to be Soaring Eagles though. So we're not going to change our mascot.
Okay.
And it looks like we will start next year, the 2021 school year, with our current 6th graders rolling up to 7th grade and our current 7th graders rolling up to 8th grade. And we are supposed to get approximately 50 to 60 new 7th graders coming in.
I heard a bell there. I don't know. I don't see any new participants, but oh well.
What is so sad is it's the children are victims of all this. It's so sad. Most of the city residents are quite pleased that the state is now having not only the fiscal but the academic oversight to make sure we, raise the quality of education for our children in Rochester. It is pretty sad. And now everything has to change again, but maybe in this process it can change for the better.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. One person is waiting. Let's see what we got. Dan Drmacich on.
Is Travis still on?
No, I think he left us. Let's see. Hi, Dan.
Hi, John.
Have you read the latest news about the superintendent?
Yep.
And well, we were just talking with Deb Washington, who is on here. She's the
Hi, Deb.
Hey, how you
principal
doing?
at 3, which is going to be repurposed as a middle school.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Craziness.
Yeah, that wouldn't be too bad if we have it, if we can be sure that all the kids from the Southwest can go there, so they stay kind of local. But I don't know if they're doing anything that.
Everything is up in the air.
So we're yeah. Go ahead.
I think the motto should be children first, and everything done should be for the children.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think there's any question about that.
Well, I know as we are planning, children's are at the forefront of all the planning that we're doing as we reconfigure the new middle school. And we want to ensure that it's going to be whole child, where we are not just focused on academics, but on the social and emotional well-being, the physical well-being of students, and not just students, of families also. Because one thing that we did learn this year, as we work with so many families, is a lot of students are faced with trauma because of situations that their families are in, and it's outside of their control. So knowing that, we have been planning so that we are able to touch each and every child based on the needs of the child and the family.
That's terrific.
It's very true, yes. And the control of the drug world in this city has caused so much trauma. And again, our children are the victims. But we've seen what was done at East High School, and it's taking the whole child. And we see what's done in other cities where they have, lifted the academic level. So I know it can be done here too.
It can be done anywhere with the proper funding, but I just need to say that when we look at East High School, we got to really look at how much money and resources is poured into that school, that one school, where other schools are not getting that same amount. So
it is not just money. I've had experiences as a citizen with working in East High School. It is a wonderful attitude towards the child. It is,
but it's not just about money. It's about the resources that's available to the students and the families. It's not about money.
It's the attitude of everybody within that school. And that Sean Nelms is, he is good. It warms your heart. It's really wonderful, wonderful. And
But
the children are just wonderful.
it's nice when teachers and staff know that there is money supporting them for auxiliary resources like extra social workers and psychologists and
Absolutely.
guidance
Absolutely.
counselors. So when they have that, it not only gives them a feeling, a better attitude in terms of support, but it also provides resources for the kids who are dealing with trauma. And it's just
Yeah.
unrealistic to expect every teacher to be able to deal with every student who has that. So that's what East High has.
Right.
They've got the resources and almost double the money in terms of making it work. Now, obviously, that it shows. I mean, it shows that it can work to some degree. But I think Deb raises an interesting question in terms of, well, that's great, but what about everybody else?
Right. And it's
And I've heard no.
district to be able to replicate that model in East High School and every other high school. It's unrealistic, and we would go bankrupt trying to do it.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
guess
right.
what?
Exactly right.
Where did all these millions of dollars take our students to this point? There are millions of dollars put into the schools. We're one of the lowest school systems there is. It has to be reworked. It has to be reworked.
Yeah.
Children are the victims. That's all I can say, and it's horrible.
It's true.
Right. We agree. We're not downplaying that. We agree.
Yep.
Yeah, so anyways, one of the things we're going to hopefully learn in the coming weeks, Deb, is, just what is it for citywide, or will, we've been wishing we knew what a good local junior high would be, or middle school would be in the Southwest. And here comes Joe. We've added John Lang and Joe, by the way. Joe Baldino from School 29. Here he is.
Hello.
Hey, hey.
Hi, Joe.
How's it going?
Pretty well. We were just talking with Deb about 3 becoming the middle school, and hopefully it would be a middle school that we would have preferential access to for the Southwest. But we need to find out more about that.
Right. But we also need to know that I'm just a true believer that all students should have access to great and higher education. So I wouldn't want to limit it to just the students on the Southwest, but open it up to those who are ready to take on my challenge.
Yep.
It's a great challenge, Deb.
Thank you.
Oh, Dan, you want to talk about some of the things that the coalition has been fighting for? Because it certainly has become extremely relevant today now that the superintendent is saying he's in favor of having a monitor that overlooks the district and tries to get the superintendent and board working well together.
I can give a brief summary. I mean, one of the things that we lobbied for heavily through Harry Bronson and the other local legislators was the appointment of a monitor by the Board of Regents to assist the superintendent in terms of this financial crisis, but also in terms of teaching and learning and what the research says works with urban kids. And so we felt that the appointment of 2 monitors would be helpful if paid for by the state. They ended up with appointing 1, as most of you know. And we, as the Rochester Coalition for Public Education, we strongly recommended to the Board of Regents that they appoint Dr. Bill Calla as the monitor. Reason being that Bill seems to have all the skills and the experiences and the support of district people, all different constituencies, and a sense of compassion and understanding of who the kids are who take part in our RCSD. So we strongly recommended that to Commissioner, or to Chancellor Rosa, to Wade Norwood, to Andrew Brown, and the current interim commissioner. And we haven't heard back, but we're hoping they definitely consider Bill, because we feel he's the right person to assist the super. But as you know now, whether or not the super is ever going to be around and who that person would be is another question.
When did you first hear that Wade was talking about leaving? Was that news that just came out today?
I just heard about it today.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
he's hit the paper and he's looking to be done by end of June.
This is
Can you
Wade.
blame the poor guy?
No, this
Wait
is
a minute.
Terry.
Terry.
Dave.
Terry Dade, the superintendent.
yeah, that's the first I heard of it.
Okay.
But I'm not
He walked
surprised.
into a mess.
I mean, he's basically in a no-win situation given the non-support he has from the board, the lack of money coming in from the state legislature, the governor putting priorities on other issues, nothing from the feds through the Trump administration. So he's in a really tough situation, and I can only empathize with the kind of stress and frustration that he's going through. I mean, not that he should leave. I'm just understanding that he's under an incredible amount of pressure and doesn't really see a lot of support coming from the board and the other government officials out there. Doesn't see anything in terms of money or resources, and just cuts. So, I mean, who's supporting him? The teachers are angry. Parents are angry of school closings.
Yeah,
It's all the way around.
The 4 unions have written letters in support for Dave.
And where was everybody all these years? This has been going on for a long time. This poor guy just walked in at the grand finale, but where was everybody for so many times as our kids just went down the drain? It's something.
I don't know. The other thing I wanted to say,
Dan,
John,
if you don't mind, Dan, can you just
Sure.
introduce yourself and so that everybody will know your role?
Yeah, Dan Drmacich. I'm the coordinator for the Rochester Coalition for Public Education. It's a group of educators, parents, citizens, college professors who are all interested in helping kids and staff in the city school district. And we've been at it for, well, I mean, we've changed names several times since the year, I think, 2000, but we've been actively lobbying and trying to support progressive research-based change in the district for quite a long time. And so that's who I am and what we do. I'm also the former principal of School Without Walls, was there for 23 years. And also I'm a consultant for the Institute for Learning-Centered Education in New York State, throughout the country.
Beautiful, thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I can speak with, can I say something real quick, John?
Sure, go.
I can speak very pointedly and very firmly on behalf of my principal colleagues. We are very strong behind the superintendent. We feel he's one of the, I've been around a really long time. You mentioned Bill Calla's name. I'm putting, it's a very small list. Now, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but I've been around a long time. And Bill and Terry Day are two of the top people I've ever worked with or for. So I'm glad to hear about Bill, and we are 100% strong behind Superintendent Dave. It just floored us today when we heard this news.
Yeah. I think, you know, in terms of what to do right now, given the superintendent's position in terms of it looks like he's going to leave, but I think now is the time for a monitor to be in place to give whatever support Terry needs in these last few months, or which could influence him to stay on if he has that support. And again, I'd like to really advocate for Bill Calla, that he would be the guy who has the experience and the knowledge and the resources and community support to give Terry the support that he needs. So whatever individuals you can do, I'd encourage you to contact Chancellor Rosa, Wade Norwood, Andrew Brown, and encourage them to appoint a monitor, and preferably, again, Bill Calla.
Yeah, I think Bill would be
Yeah.
good at that.
So, to my understanding, the chancellor has been contacted.
Yes, we've written a letter to the Chancellor and to Wade and Andrew.
Yep.
But I think it wouldn't hurt if other folks, you know, from your various backgrounds and positions would do the same. I think they need to hear it. You know, it's good if they hear it from a variety of folks rather than just the coalition.
Have you worked with the press, with our Democrat and Chronicle, our new editor there? And,
well, the Democrat and Chronicle is, yeah, we've written a letter of support for them for Bill to be published,
Yeah.
but they did not publish it.
Would
all
you
right.
mind putting the name of the desired monitor in the chat?
His name?
Yeah.
Bill or William, Dr. William Calla.
Yeah. Oh, is it C-A-L-A?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Former superintendent of Fairport for about 20 years. And also he was the interim in RCSD for approximately a year.
Oh, okay. Great.
That email that I sent out yesterday had 4 attachments. One is the letter that the coalition is recommending to send to the chancellor and commissioners, and it talks about what Bill, Dr. Calla's credentials are. Yeah, we have to remember that there are, I think that the superintendent has been as effective as he can be, considering the terrible things that are being thrown at him in terms of budget and
Oh, terrible.
yeah, and but for some people who are interested in privatizing education, there are some people who really don't want an effective superintendent there because they'd like to see the district have all the more black eyes and see.
Or maybe who's running it now wants to keep running it.
Yeah, there are factions in
which we know who. All right, tell me, why did Bill Calla leave the last time? I know everybody was quite disappointed.
He was just an interim
disappeared.
that time, wasn't he?
He was an interim. They just didn't move fast enough in terms of securing him.
He got another job?
No, he just,
No?
I think they're, I'm trying to remember. That was Jean-Claude followed him.
Bizarre.
And I can't remember whether or not it was an issue of Jean-Claude or Bill or whatever, but
Bill was in 2007, I think.
it could have been,
wasn't it?
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Yep. The
But
other
he
thing
was
too, I don't
good,
want
and-
to keep touting Bill's horn, but the other issue, John, that I know you've raised, and it's a main objective of your coalition, is the 1.5 busing issue, which when Bill was interim superintendent, he strongly lobbied for that with the state legislature and Board of Education and Board of Regents. So that would be another reason. I mean, the mere support of that by an individual shows that they have an understanding of what kids need, and that if you did have that kind of busing agreement, that more kids would go to school, and there'd be obviously better attendance and hopefully better performance as well, simply by being there more often.
And the parents can buy in this. Parents have it's got to be a community where the parents feel they're part of the education in the school, and they feel welcomed, and they can feel they can get to the schools. It's hard when they don't drive and the schools are across town.
Yeah.
It's important that there's parent involvement.
Yeah, I think that, one of the things, and feel free to jump in, Deb, if you have any thoughts, but, everybody says they want parents in the school. But then again, there are times when having parents come traipsing in and complaining about this and that is a disruption in the school, and certainly there are some teachers.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, well.
The parents have a right to the ownership
No.
School,
Just listen a bit here.
They have a right to follow protocols and the systems that's set up for visiting the school.
Right. And
they have what? They have what?
They have a right to the protocols and system that needs to be set up when they want to visit the school or visit or give them to the school. It's like any other business. You have to follow protocols and systems.
So anyway,
for the sake of the children, there should be a parent board to put together. But
yeah, most schools have PTO boards.
So anyways,
Can I just speak to that real quick? Because I think
sure.
I'm definitely a parent, and I definitely work closely with the district and some funders in the community. But there is a parent board. It's called the Parent Advisory Council, and it has multiple roles. But they are essentially like the Board of Ed parents. And then there's one for special education, there's one for multilingual, bilingual, and then every school that receives Title I funds, which is 100% of the schools in RCSD, are required to have some kind of parent group. So I know like the schools my kids go to are School 10 and School of the Arts, and both of those schools have them. And I think even if it's more casual, hanging out of parents, it still counts, because I think what's important to remember is that the city has changed a lot in 75 years, and what made sense for white middle class folks 75 years ago doesn't necessarily make sense for the folks who live and work and send their kids to school in the city. So I think some of the frustration that I hear in the community around parent engagement really is like white-centered frustration, that Black families and brown families in the city are participating, but they participate in ways that might feel different or unusual to folks who grew up in white communities. So I think it's important to remember that parents do participate. They participate every day, and that it's an important piece to center that parents are welcome in schools. The district has a 24-hour request if you need to schedule time at school. They ask you to do 24 hours ahead of time, but you're allowed to go into the school anytime you want. You just might not be allowed in your kid's classroom without that 24-hour notice, because like you said, centering kids is the most important thing. Putting kids at the center of the discussion is important.
There goes one now.
That
means preserving their instructional time. And so the district.
But, I think a parent, no matter how traumatic their surroundings, still loves their child and wants the best for their child, whether it's inner city, outer city, upper city, down city, or middle city. It's that they want their child to do well.
Yes, I think we're all on that same page for sure.
And
Definitely.
if you've ever gotten a chance to go over to School 17 and talk to Katerina Leona Menino, who's the principal there, and the amount of work they've put into making sure they set up well-functioning parent interaction, you know, that's one of the
Wow,
things.
that's great.
That's
Yeah.
one of the things that that John Lang and I have been, you know, worrying about as we see we've got all of our receivership schools are going to become community schools. But after having watched over the last 7-8 years, School 17 come back after it was renovated and try to reestablish the type of community school it had back when Ralph Spezio was running it, has been a huge undertaking because you have to reestablish that local support for the school. And it's a lot easier.
Well, is it good at 17? Is the parent-child, is the participation good at 17?
It's doing very well.
Maybe that
problem,
could
of
be
course-
used as a model. Yeah.
Yeah.
They are
problem,
as a
Jan,
model.
with 17 now is that a lot of their success came from at least two different variables that are probably going to disappear now. You know, one is that whatever staffing they've had over the past 4 or 5 years is going to decline. Number two, the number of resources in terms of social and emotional growth for kids that was provided through the mayor and other county and city organizations, that can't be sustained without the extra money that was placed forth. And other schools are probably raising the same questions, is that, you know, that'd be nice if we had that kind of support as well. And third is that they received extra money through being a receivership school. And again, the infinite wisdom of the state legislature and the Board of Regents is that once you come off the receivership criteria, you don't get the money anymore. So all the resources that were used to support them in terms of restorative justice and other staff members now disappears.
Has the school system become connected to the county for troubled homes, such as the Child Protective Field, which then pays for social workers to work with families as a resource for the schools to use? Has that been tightened up at all?
Well, I'm sure it was working well at 17, and it Child Protective, of course, works with all the city schools. But there's only so many to go around.
Yeah,
but they do have accessibility of the private agencies to have them go and help families too. It doesn't necessarily have to be just the school system paying for the help to help the families too.
I think, you know, I think right now we have to look at the fact that given the COVID-19 shutdown of schools, shutdown of all sorts of things, the fact that the state is probably going to have one heck of a shortfall in terms of income to do anything.
Absolutely. So we have to reinvent.
Yeah, we're gonna have to, you know, right now we need to really push hard to try to keep Terry Dade in there and try to get Bill Kalla in as into that position, or somebody equally good. And we have to realize that, yeah, go ahead.
John, one of the questions, of course, that you're raising with that in terms of suggesting that support for Terry Dade, or hopefully maybe his continuation rather than leaving the district, would be, again, it's the kind of thing that I was proposing and pushing for Bill Kalla to support him in terms of being appointed, but perhaps we ought to be doing the same with Terry in terms of contacting him and telling him how much despite the fact that we may disagree with some of his decisions, that we're supportive of him.
Yeah.
And we realize he's got a tough
yeah.
job, and we'd like him to stay, and we'll do whatever we can to help him relate to the board and deal with the board as much as possible.
Right.
And
as well as rally as many parents as possible, because in the end it's the students who will suffer if
Right.
We have to go through the process, first of all, of a new superintendent, and then the process of trying to finalize a budget that's not beneficial at this point for students.
Yeah.
One of the
You
things,
also have to settle out when it starts in the fall,
Exactly.
which
do
could be
you think
winter.
do you think the state's going to have a lot of say in a lot of this?
Yeah, they have the budget.
They have,
And academic oversight, which means how they raise the level, and it means the needs of the children. So I think they're going to have the final word. I don't know, how can we help support bringing Kayla back?
Well,
Is there any
that
way-
would the monitor will be appointed by the Board of Regents and
all
through
right,
the commissioners. So we have to influence them.
yeah, we have to try to
All
get
right,
them
all
to
right.
appoint him.
And for years, Wade Norwood is a good man, and he will have the compassion of the children at heart. He's a good man. I'm sure he'll do his best to get the best for here.
Yeah.
He really is a good man. I don't know. It's very sad because, again, the victims are the children.
Yeah, it's going to be, there's some real wild cards there. What Cuomo and Trump managed to do in terms of agreements for money flowing into the state to make up
We're going to be virtually bankrupt after this. There's not going to be a lot
the
of
only
money
people
for a
who
lot
can
of
print
things.
money is the federal government, and so we'll see how it all goes. But right now we have to try, I think, to get the system adjusted so we're happy with it. Get the superintendent to agree to stay and get Bill Collin in there to help
I don't know what.
Because a lot of the things, that Dade is in favor of, which is, one is local busing, getting neighborhood schools more entrenched, get them back up to what they used to be. And all of these things are dependent on getting the state to change some regulations as far as reimbursement.
That's one of the things. It's only one of the things. There has to be complete accountability from the top down. No buts about it.
John, one other issue, it's kind of an unintended consequence of Terry's, Superintendent Dade's announcement, is that this sets the stage again for Mayor Warren to raise the question of, this all could be avoided if we had a state-appointed Board of Education, which of course eliminates the enfranchisement of all the citizens of Rochester in terms of determining who the board would be. And also, one other unintended consequence will be that given the financial situation, that charter schools can be advocated more by the mayor, and that this is a role for them to play. And in terms of, again, the agenda and platform of the Coalition for Public Education in Rochester is that we're 100% opposed to mayoral control, and also to that of charter schools becoming any more involved in what they are. In fact, we prefer to see a reduction, because that would mean more money coming back to the district.
All right, but we got to do what's best for the kids.
Absolutely.
Why are you against a state coming in and just at least taking it over for a while? You think this board is working that we have now? And do you
No,
think
but-
it has been working?
That's much like the issue of Congress. I mean, I'm very disappointed with Mitch McConnell and the Republican control of the Senate, of the U.S. Senate. But it doesn't mean that we should disband the Senate and give control to one individual to run the Senate any more than we should a local board of education.
Right. And some are going to feel they're just as disappointed with the Democratic control of Congress. But
Right.
that's cutting, it's politics. All right. What I'm saying is this school board's not working, and it has not worked for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well, we've got to work in terms
what's
of
your fear? What's your fear of the state coming in? What's the big fear?
because I don't want to disenfranchise voters in the city. I think those people who are disenfranchised the most will be hurt most by this. I mean, this is their opportunity to support and elect a different person if we don't like who's in there. So I think that's the route to go, is every 2 years, new board members come up. There's no reason we can't do that.
And it's not I'm not going to get it. It's not the person who decides, it's the party who decides who's being put in. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying we got to know what's best for the kids. That's all. And I'm
Right.
just saying, and I don't even know, state board might be the worst in the world, but if they know how to do a job better, then do it temporarily.
Let's review a few things that have happened.
Can I just say I have another agent, so I'm going to have to get off, but I appreciate all that has been said.
All righty, I appreciate your joining us, and if all goes well, there'll be a recording of what was said here that will be posted. Last time I did one for the Southwest Common Council, I screwed something up, but hopefully this time I know what I'm doing. We'll see.
Right.
Thank you very much for coming, Deb.
Nice to meet you, Deb.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, one of the things we have to remember that has happened over the last 20 years, back when we had the federal government start the No Child Left Behind policy.
Yeah, I remember that.
It had
Yeah.
a lot of good intentions, and it let a lot of people who were looking at ways to make money off the system, that a lot of people came in wanting to sell testing, wanted to sell various programs to the schools, and the federal government, and I won't stones at everybody there,
Because it's too big to keep track of it all. Yeah.
They ended up dangling some money in front of the states that would buy in, and our state, of course, bought into it. And even when it became the Democrats were in, and the Obama administration, they had their race to the top, I think it was that they called it, which was trying to find another program that would help.
Yeah.
These are all,
I know. It's like this poverty initiative now, it's not all these things are not helping those that should be helped. I don't know. It's discouraging.
John, can I raise a point of order?
Yes,
John?
Yeah.
Can I raise a point of order in terms of the process of Zoom? I noticed that area is not, she's got a microphone on there with a slash through it, which might mean that she's not being able to communicate.
I think she's.
So I don't know whether or not she can hear you, but if you tell her how to unmute that, that might be useful.
Yeah.
Can you unmute yourself if you want to say something, Aria?
Bottom left.
Yeah, there you go.
There
No,
she is.
I know how to do it. I'm good. Do you need me?
We're being respectful, so you don't have to hear our noise.
I'm good. I'm learning a lot about what's important to Southwest Common Council Education Committee. I'm good. If I have questions, I'll jump in or anything. Do you need me to speak to anything specific?
Yeah, I guess, you know, from what I've seen of School 10, there's been a lot of grassroots support for the principal, and they did a great job of going to bat for her when they were going to lay her principals. So I think there's
Nice.
a lot of a good, solid support for the school. And I think that's one of the things we have to do in all communities. And that's the thing that's killing us with the busing issue. And, you know, the state, there are those people in the state, I would say, who see an advantage in separating parents from their kids' school. And one way you do that is you push for having the 1.5 mile busing requirement. And now parents can't get to the school as easily as they could have back when it was the neighborhood school.
So I do have thoughts on this, and I have to walk. Sorry, I have to drain some pasta for my kid.
Oh, okay.
So I'm going to take you off video. You don't have to watch me in my kitchen, but
Okay.
I will share real quick though that the school choice model that we use now was meant to alleviate racial and socioeconomic segregation, and it doesn't do that anymore.
That's right.
And so, although I agree with Deb that every kid should have the opportunity to live their best school life, I also think that busing 1.5 miles isn't the way to do it. And so part of what works at School 10, I think there's many things, but the top 2 things that always stick out to me is that, I don't know if this is the case anymore, but for a long time, School 10 was the blackest school in the district. So we had the highest percentage of kids whose families identified as Black or African American. We also have almost 100% Black or African American identifying people in our leadership structure. And we did for a long time have 100%. So there was this homogeny that helped get things done quickly. There was built-in cultural competence into the school's leadership model. So the school's leadership model and many of the teaching staff reflected the kids and their families that were coming to school, which was that's a huge thing just right there.
Big advantage.
That like almost 40% of the kids who go to School 10 come from 14619. So it's like a citywide school, but almost 40% come from that zip code, which means that it's more local than like School 35, which is at the end of my street, where 80% of the kids come from outside of our zip code. So
School 10 probably has a bigger population of 19th Ward kids than any of the other schools in the ward.
What did you say, John?
Then, for example, School 16,
Yeah.
in the survey we did as part of the community engagement, roughly 25% came from within the 19th Ward, 75% was outside.
I see you.
So I think that the 1.5 miles is not so much that you can go to a school 1.5 miles away, it's that you can't go to one that's less than 1.5 miles away.
Right.
That's how placement goes.
Right. And so I think like with School 10, there's this critical mass of families who live within that walkable area. We have, I mean, there's like almost 400 kids in the school. There's probably like between 200 and 250 families that send their kids to the school. And there's probably 20% of them live within 0.5 mile of the building on Congress Ave, that's like more than any other school in the district. So I have to take my video off because my 10-year-old is draining the pasta because he's hungry.
Okay.
Still listening though.
Okay. We'll be waiting for some pasta to be delivered.
Hey, John?
Yeah.
John, I've got to leave in about 5 minutes or so.
Okay. Well,
is there anything crucial? It's all crucial, I know
No.
that, but is there anything that you want me here for in addition to what we've talked about so
well,
far?
I saw that you were trying to get a hold of some of the folks from the coalition there to schedule a Zoom meeting to figure out what to do in reaction to the fact that Terry wanted to leave. We certainly are interested in being kept in the loop as to anything you've got going, and we need to get people participating in that. You know, hopefully we'll be able to get another online chat sometime in the next week or two. I try to get these things once a month so we can bring all things to the surface that we need to talk about. But, you know, we're, as Aria said, with the, you know, having the school choice thing, which was a direct result of the No Child Left Behind legislation to try to have equitable opportunities for children to go to the best schools, and the unexpected consequence of making sure that most of the other schools didn't get any better because the energy went to everybody trying to get into the best schools. And so we've had this unanticipated result. We need to be aware of some of the things that are going on, because it's, my thought is that it's quite possible that you might find a 25% reduction in state aid next year, or who knows what. You know, people can't, the state can't create money, the federal government can, and there's a limit to how much they can do that before the economy tanks, because people don't have confidence in the value of money.
They're not going to be able to pay tax money.
Yeah. So, anyways, we have to be prepared to figure out what do we do if we had you know, if we had $60 million taken away from us. Well, we could get rid of busing, and that would require quite an overhaul of students going to their neighborhood schools. There are huge socioeconomic and cultural impacts that would happen from that. But those are things that might happen this coming year, and we have to be have some contingency planning. You know, I think that it would be, you know, we're all glued to the TV and watching our first responders, our nurses, firemen, you know, putting their lives on the line every day with this COVID-19 problem, and the school is, you know, teachers and staff are pretty much sequestered in place and not really in the same level of danger. There's a lot of effort, and Joe's still on here. You know, how many of your teachers are contacting all the people in the community as much as they should? Is it some do it, some don't? I don't know. From what we've heard in the CET meetings that John Lang and I have been attending, you know, there are some schools that do quite a bit of effort to make that contact, and others have had problems because not all parents are in the immediate neighborhood. The need to get more local participation in the schools has kind of bubbled up to the surface again, which is one of the things that I was hoping we'd talk on here. But we're running quickly out of time at 7:29. But
John,
you know, one of the things we had kind of put off pushing as hard as we might have for school local busing ban, because we were really trying to get a monitor to work with the schools to try to avoid precisely what's happening here, that we've got the board and the superintendent at loggerheads, and the superintendent figuring that he may want to cut his losses. But we're going to have to push that again at some point. But we also need to get through this immediate problem with the superintendent wanting to leave.
Oh,
Whatever
too
happens,
bad.
I'd rather have him there trying to do the right thing and, you know, have Bill Calla or somebody else
Yeah,
be able to,
that would be wonderful.
because I don't trust the state, you know, the state and the federal government have all let forces that see public education as a source of a lot of money. They can sell testing to
Right.
schools. They can sell all sorts of things, be it, and even how much we've pushed technology into the schools. There's the good side and the bad side to some of that too. You know?
But John, let's be honest. We now are in a money crunch. Something crazy went on. There was a lot of money coming into this city.
There's
And
a lot of
at one time, we had the highest paid teachers there was, and they were going to do all these wonderful things.
Mhm.
Something went amok somewhere.
Yeah.
So why? And maybe if you could find out where we are, because there's all these rumors that we are one of the lowest scoring in New York State and on the bottom in the
rumors, we
United
are.
States.
Yeah.
And
John,
Hang
John, let
on,
me
Why?
interrupt
Mary.
just for a moment because I have to leave. And thank you for having me be part of this. Let me know when the next meeting is. I'll try to zoom in. And in the meantime, I encourage anybody who's part of your committee to certainly contact Chancellor Rosa and lobby for Bill Calla to be the monitor, and also to contact Superintendent Dade to encourage him to stay, and that we would do our best in terms of supporting him and intervening with the board when necessary to give him the support that he needs. So thank you, and I have to sign out.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us, Dan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, take Mary off of mute there. Sorry to cut you off, Mary, but we needed to have him get in his last words.
Right. Okay, well, let's go the whole circle and do everything we can. Stand behind whoever comes in as a group and do whatever we can for these children in Rochester.
Okay.
But get some statistics, because those statistics could be wrong.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we're going to have to end up doing a little bit more of, which I haven't seen, is getting the teachers union more involved in the discussion of what's going to go forward.
Well, I think they have a lot of control.
They got a huge amount of control. You know, it's
Yeah.
But the thing that is is pushing people in the direction of charter schools is the fact that charter schools generally don't have unions. And
Absolutely.
And that's yeah, hang on. That's a good thing and a bad thing, because it may mean that sometimes the teachers aren't as well checked out as they should be to be able to perform the jobs they're trying to do. But
absolutely,
we're going to need, I think, in order to get through the coming, 9 months or so, to have everything on the table that can be changed one way or the other, and be aware of what the realities are. And
but John, you hit it right on the nose. Nobody leaves a good party. People looked for something better, and they looked at the charter schools. The Joe public out there didn't know if it was affiliated, not affiliated with unions. That was not anything they were familiar with. So they kept seeking for better. That's why I say our city people, our mothers, love their children and want the best for their children just as much as, Joe Suburbia or Dorothy Suburbia wants. But they didn't know anything about the union thing. And the schools would not have been a threat as much if they had allowed unions, but not allowing unions is one of the big things that has been stopped on the charter schools. Now,
You're
are the
talking
charter
about not having unions in the charter schools?
Yeah, that has been a big thing for the teachers union to go against charter schools. Tell me, some of the charter schools are good and some are bad, but I think they have to look at everything and find out what's working for the kids.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
See if you can get some. Yeah, go on, Jen.
Yeah, I think that my point is that we really need to have everything on the table and look at
Absolutely.
Depending on what happens in the coming months. I mean, I would hope that in the coming months, if everybody is still sequestered, that the teachers are going to continue to interact with the students, who, by the way, have lost the better part of half a year of education. You're laughing. You're laughing there, Joe.
Wow, you're right. But John, if you go in and say, well, it's because you're not giving us money, they're going to say, hey, we gave you a lot of money and your children are very low on scoring.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to figure out an overhaul plan and how things are going to work across the board, and children first.
Yeah.
So can I just jump in on two factual pieces of information for everybody? One is that charter schools are bound by different rules than public school in
Right.
So that's a big thing to remember. Public schools have to deliver a specific level of service, and charter schools are allowed to deliver a lower level of service, which makes it seem like they might be doing a better job, but they're typically not. We call it charter school kickout season. In November, we get a bunch of kids that started the school year in charter schools.
Yeah, I've heard that. Yeah.
And then it happens again in March. It's typically right before there's benchmark testing or state testing. And then the second information to share is that New York State owes RCSD $86 million in foundation aid. So they owe us money. And so going to them and saying we need more money is a totally reasonable thing because they owe us $86 million in foundation aid.
But it's bottom line scores. Bottom line, how are the children doing? That's all.
Dramatically lower rate than it would be if we had reassessed it every year like we should be doing. So the city
maybe John can get the statistics and show this, because people feel there was a lot of money put in the district and we're one of the lowest. We've got to find out why and what we can do to raise this level. And now we're not even getting the money. So this is so sad, so sad. And also to compare the charter schools thing. Well, didn't they just close the charter school or start closing them?
Well, they get closed like everybody else, I think.
There's usually one or two a year.
They close because they're not productive, right?
Some, and some are doing well, if according to the data we get anyways.
So they're closing the good charter schools?
No, I think by and large they're staying open. But, if a charter school is definitely underperforming in terms of children's scores, then the state gets after them also. But
right.
They have a lot more flexibility to do what they're doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, let's work together and get what we can the best for the children of Rochester. It's going to be on our souls if we don't. So, okay.
We'll try to get everybody up to speed when there's something that we can get involved with, but try to get those letters, which I included the letter for Kala, Bill Kala in the
Okay, good.
Anybody else got something they want to say? No? See Alicia.
So this is Eleanor for Catholic Family Center. We're still able to interview people for class. It's probably not going to be till the summer, but there is a recruiter, and I put his number in the chat, 766-7344, Reg Walton. He can still interview people.
And
Okay.
this is for vocational training?
Yes, construction
Yeah,
for 17 to 24-year-olds.
You're wonderful. I think this is wonderful. Some of our children have wonderful skilled minds to do mechanical things and things like that. And John, we have kind of thinned out our vocational schools in high schools. And now they have to take a lot of the courses at MCC. But a lot of our children don't graduate.
Yeah.
But maybe if we had more...
We'll have it on the agenda for next month.
Yeah, we
I'm
have
trying
to
to get them
push it.
in this month, but that didn't work out. And Travis was good enough to fill in and let us know
Yeah.
what's going on at 10. So
And that was wonderful.
we'll aim for next month.
But
Hey, John.
credit to CFC
Yes, Travis.
and let's...
John,
Yeah.
I came back. I just wanted to know, did you hear the news about Terry Dade?
Yeah, we were just talking about that quite a bit.
Okay, all right. I just wanted to make sure
Is
you
there
heard.
anything new other than what we heard on Channel 13?
I just read the DNC's article that came out.
Okay.
Yes.
So
Is it confirmed, or is it just that he's announcing that he plans to leave?
it says that he is going to begin negotiations with the board to get a buyout.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Who's going to want to take this over?
And Mayor
God help us.
Mayor Warren issued a statement in response.
And what did she say?
Mayor Warren, this is what her statement says. Today, yet again, our school board and its enablers are putting their wants and their salaries before needs of the children they purport to serve. It is a travesty that we would lose another superintendent, especially during the most severe fiscal crisis RCSD has faced.
Wow.
Again, rather than deal with a catastrophe of their own creation, the school board has chosen to attempt to disgrace and destroy another leader that dare speak the truth. She went on to reiterate the call for the state to intervene, adding that the influence of so-called leaders like Assemblyman Harry Bronson must be removed so that real leadership will meet the needs of our children can be restored.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure she finds this as an opportunity.
Yeah.
But okay, anything else?
All right.
Thank you very much.
Let's all say a prayer. Let's all say a prayer for our children, and let's hope. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Take care,
Good
man.
night.
John, thank you for all you do, John. Thank you for all you do. You don't talk, you also walk.
Yeah. John.
Bye-bye.
Yes.
Hi, this is Alicia. I just wanted to say, I don't know if Dan, I don't think Dan is still on.
He's left.
So I wanted to just say that thank you for having such a mixed panel of community members and educators together. So that makes the positive difference. And I look forward to the next meeting because I would love to address Dan and and because I'm one of his students. So
Okay.
it's good to see that he's still in the business. He's still concerned and working on behalf of the betterment of youth in the greater Rochester area, particularly.
Oh yeah, the list that these invitations go to include the school board and the superintendent and a lot of the lists of information that Dan Drmacich sends out is also including 50, 60 people, which include a lot of those individuals also. So there's a lot of, we try to keep people in the loop to keep them on their toes.
Right.
And, we're going
So,
to keep
yeah,
doing
so
that.
just as within other parts of government, it'll be very pertinent, very key and important for us to take into great consideration and listen to those educators who are the experts and who have been in the trenches along with parents for the last 10, 20, 30 plus years.
Yeah.
And Dan Drmacich is one of those such people. And for the new middle school that is coming, I'm looking forward to that. And I want to say Dan was at interim when there was an interim junior high school, so I'm sure he can be an asset to the transition of the middle school within the Southwest.
Yeah. Okay.
That's what I wanted to share.
Joe Baldino, did you have anything to say?
Not really. I use these as times for me to listen to what people have to say and just reflect. Nothing at this point, Honor. Thanks for asking me. I come to them to, like I say, hear from the community. I never met Alicia, listen to what she has to say. I think it's a good thing to have those different perspectives as we move forward in our roles.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks for being here.
You're welcome. It's my pleasure.
Always nice to see you there, Joe.
Thank you.
And,
The community gardens come along, John. I love that. Mark, was it Mark? That's his name. The guy, I got to talk about a high note. He's out there pruning the bushes. And, and it really warms my heart.
Great. Yeah. It's a good community effort. And don't forget, I've got those butterflies there that we're going to have to add to the butterfly garden. These were some steel butterflies that some of the folks who is putting together a deli at Bull's Head had made for us, so we'll get those up. Okay, well, we've got to get going. Eleanor, have you gotten a chance to put the minutes from the Southwest Common Council up yet?
Shoot,
yeah.
I haven't done that.
I don't think so.
Oh
And
my
considering
God.
that I screwed up and wasn't able to capture the recording.
Wow, I'll have to go look for them.
Okay.
Yeah, I thought I did that. Okay.
Okay, well,
If I don't tonight, it'll be tomorrow.
Okay.
Take care.
All righty, folks. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.